everybody, I'm Kimberly Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and I have my mom on the show today. It's Ingrid Turner.
Hi.
And we are canning today. We're canning with a vengeance.
Yes.
We are canning whole tomatoes. So this is how to can whole tomatoes. Now, we've already started preparing our half of a bushel that we're using for whole tomatoes. And what we've done is we have boiling water on the stove. We have sterilized all of our jars and our lids and our rims. They're sitting...
And we washed all the tomatoes.
We've washed all the tomatoes, and now we've been blanching the tomatoes. We're throwing them into boiling water until their skins split. And then we take them out, and the skins are easy to peel off after
Just put them in cold water, and you can just slides off.
So you're not going to want to can these tomatoes with the skins on, okay?
Oh, no.
You got to get them off, and this is the easiest way to do it. We've got maybe 8 left that we're going to do. And these are gorgeous Ontario field tomatoes. We got these at Harvest Barn Country Market. It's a whole big bushel. Make sure you check out the review for this. They are beautiful, big, huge, plump, red, gorgeous tomatoes. Make sure you put your orders in for them so they can have a bushel waiting for you too if you want to do spaghetti sauce, or you want to can whole tomatoes, or salsa, or whatever it is you want to do.
I think with anything that you want a large quantity, it's best to let them know, like if you want cucumbers for dill pickles or tomatoes or whatever it is.
1000%, yes. Absolutely do that for sure. All right, so Mom's going to show us what we're doing.
Yes. I'm just putting these in. I have a roaster here full of boiling water, and I'm just throwing them in.
Just dunking them.
And I let them go for about 3 minutes. And this is kind of what they look like when you take them out.
Now, we saved this so you could see some of it. Now, as you can see, this skin has split, and that's exactly what we want. You can see now, that just comes off really super easy. Now, that's the easiest way that we know of to get the skins off. So we have to get all these skins off. We're almost done and almost prepared. So get your tomatoes ready.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in a minute.
This is going into cold water right now.
Cold water, you're gonna shock them in cold water. So plunging them into cold water shocks them even further, and it makes the skins even looser and even more easy to peel off. Okay, so we've just taken our last tomatoes out of the water. We have a nice whole big bowl of peeled whole tomatoes. You wanna keep them as whole as possible. If you have some that you wanna use just part of it, like half of it, or like one half doesn't look so nice, you can still use them. It's not a problem.
Yeah, or if they don't fit in the jar.
That's right. You can cut them in half. So you can see that Mom has cut a couple in half just for those purposes. Sometimes you can't fit an extra whole tomato in there. You can add half of one. Okay, so I'm going to get started with 10 jars. I don't know how many we're actually going to get, but I'm going to get them prepared. So I have some coarse salt, or it's also called pickling salt. It's a larger grained salt. It's not real fine, but it's used especially for canning, okay? So I'm going to use 1 tablespoon of coarse salt per large jar. How large are these jars, Mom? These are quart.
1 liter, actually.
They're 1 liter jars, and they're wide mouth jars. When you're doing whole tomatoes, canning whole tomatoes, you want to use wide mouth jars. It's not easy to get your hand in the smaller mouth ones, the large jars with the smaller mouths. These are perfect, okay? I'm also going to add 1 bay leaf per jar. Okay, my jars are ready as soon as Mom's ready. Well, we just picked a whole slew of fresh parsley out of the garden, and Mom is just getting them prepared so that we can put 1, sprig of parsley into each jar as well. I have my canner starting to heat up, half full of water. We're going to use a basket to submerge the jars so they're easy to get in and out. That's just canning tools. If you don't have that, I mean, you don't need it, but they help. Also, I'm going to get ready on my stovetop 2 large cans of tomato juice. Now, you could can your tomatoes in water if you wanted to, but water doesn't have much flavor, right? So water will really water down what you're doing, and using the tomato juice just really enhances the flavor. So into a pot, we need to heat it so that when we're canning it, it can be hot going over top of the whole tomatoes, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter what kind you use. We're using 2 different kinds of juice today. Whatever you get available in your area. You could also make your own juice if you wanted to.
Oh, yes. Another reason that I like to do that is these tomatoes are so fresh and so ripe that they have a lot of juice in them. And what happens is the tomatoes float to the top and you have like this clear liquid underneath, and I don't like that look. I like that nice red look for the whole jar.
Absolutely. Again, this recipe is for a half a bushel of whole field tomatoes, whole large tomatoes.
And I'm just throwing them in like that. I have a half of one here. Get another whole.
Do you want me to start packing these?
Yeah, if you want.
If they don't fit, just slightly push them in or break them apart slightly to get it in.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for these wide-mouthed jars.
Oh yes.
We're gonna wipe all the rims off anyway.
Yes, we have to do that, and we have to be really careful with these. Some things you can get away with, but on the tomato there's so much pulp and flesh there that you really need to cover it all.
It'll be really corroded.
Yeah.
Too. If you don't wipe that off really good.
Right. Some years I make tomato sauce as well. Just cook the tomatoes up and can them. But instead, this year we're making spaghetti sauce, and then we're canning the whole tomatoes as well. Because when you open that up, there's so many things you can do with whole chunks of tomatoes. You can have them stewed or whatever you like.
That's right. Well, we use them for topping our cabbage rolls. We use them for random pasta sauces that we need, soups, etc. These are awesome tomatoes.
They really are good. They're, even with having been in that boiling water for a few minutes,
they're still nice and firm.
They're very together.
They really are. Gorgeous. So you're just layering them and packing them. You don't want to really squish anything.
No.
And if you need to move them around, Mom uses the butt end of a wooden spoon just to move things around. But you don't want to shove anything in there. You don't want things to be all really tight.
No.
But you do want to fit in, pack in as many as you can.
If
you don't want to
see
waste
an obvious hole, you're going to want to fill that in.
You don't want to waste your space. Now that blanching liquid, you can reduce down and use that in a soup or stew. You don't have to throw that out either. Everything gets used.
Because the blanching liquid, the tomatoes are all washed before I ever put it in there, so that blanching liquid is good. It's not like it has dirt in it like you might have with beets after you boil them.
Well, the great thing is we've been working with beets, we've been working with cabbage, and we've been working with tomatoes, and we're making a gorgeous borscht this week. And so all of our blanching liquids have gone into making the stock for our fantastic borscht that's coming up.
And it sits there for a few minutes. It kind of compacts itself, and you might have to add a couple of chunks.
I'm going to prepare 3 more jars. Looks like we have more than we started thinking we did. And look at that, I measured it almost exactly, hey?
Perfectly.
Babe, you need the parsley in here. Beautiful, Mommy. Now, if you are spicy and caliente, you can put chili flakes in here if you really feel like it.
If you want to, sure. Some people even like to put sugar in theirs, but I'm not a fan of that because I use the tomato juice, and that already has sugar in it, so I wouldn't want to add to it.
True story. When I make my sauces or whatever I'm using my tomatoes for, that's when I go ahead and add some sugar. I feel like I need to.
I'm just putting another little thing of parsley, a little tiny sprig on each one, just because I like it.
And I'm gonna, the remaining liquid is gonna go in my pot with my juice. Now we need to wipe off these rims with paper towels.
Yeah, and also as we put the tomato juice in, we're going to use the end of the wooden spoon to push in to get rid of any air bubbles, so that it's totally, and we have to like do like this with the jar to make sure all the nooks and crannies have got juice touching it.
So I'm just taking a clean paper towel. I slightly moistened it with some water so that I can just wipe off those lids around the top. It'll dry off before we have to do anything with these lids anyway. It's not easy to get these large tomatoes into the jars without making a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, as long as we clean them off.
That's right.
I'm going to put the lids and the rings on the stove to boil.
Canning is definitely a food of love. It's something you need to take your time and make sure that everything is done meticulously well. If you're gonna go to all this effort to can, you wanna make sure that all the jars process properly and everything is going to preserve properly. Otherwise, it's just a great big waste of time.
Right.
Okay, now to finish these jars off, I've just picked enough basil for 1 leaf per jar, and I've rinsed it off, and they're going into, oftentimes when we use our tomatoes, we use them for Italian purposes, for a spaghetti sauce or something of that nature. Now, if it's not used for that, if we're using it for another ethnic cuisine, we can always just fish that basil out when we open up the jar and not blend it into the sauce.
I just see, I like the way that looks in the jar. The little herbs there.
Herbaceousness. Okay, our tomato juice is heated, boiling. It's just boiling. Our canner is still getting ready to boil, and now we're gonna fill these guys with liquid. We use this canning funnel. It's perfect for your jars. It fits the small mouth and the wide mouth. And we're gonna fill these up to 1 inch headspace, right?
Yeah, almost an inch.
Now, as these sit for a second, there's going to be air pockets, and they're going to come to the top. And there's going to be some that you're going to have to coax out with that wooden spoon. Good.
So the first thing I do is I turn the bottle just like this, the jar, round and round. And if I can see there are more air pockets there that haven't been filled, I just give it a little push with the wooden spoon handle, and you can see how much it's gone down. See, it's gone far, just about almost a quarter of an inch below.
You want the liquid to be hot when you're putting it on top. I can smell that basil.
And this one's gone down a whole inch.
If they go down a little bit, then just add a little bit more. So it's good to have 2 people working this at one time, because one can be getting the air pockets out and you're just filling. That works well for us.
The other thing is, you know, when Dad was alive, I used to put a clove of garlic in each one of these, but we have somebody in the household that doesn't like garlic, so we don't do it anymore.
And rinse and repeat. By the time you're done all of them, you'll probably have to go through again and add a little bit more to each jar. If you can get yourself an assembly line, you're going to be much better off. Any excess tomato juice that you have today can be used for your spaghetti sauce tomorrow. What a treat to go into your fruit cellar or your pantry in the middle of the winter and get the freshness of summer in a jar of tomatoes that you did yourself. You know exactly what went in here.
And you don't have to go to the grocery store and
Trudge
all those heavy cans home.
in the snow.
Yeah, we like to hibernate the winter anyway.
My mom used to bring me jars of dill pickles that she did, and jars of whole tomatoes, and jars of spaghetti sauce when I was in university. She'd have to lug it all the way down to Texas or Louisiana or Iowa for us, and that got us through, that's for sure. And it was the taste of home, my mom's tomato sauce. It's better than that, being away from home, stuck at school, and
I brought you spaghetti sauce too.
Yeah.
Lots of it. Yeah.
What's better than that than your mom's spaghetti sauce when you're missing home? I don't know. Not much things that are better than that.
Yeah, I remember bringing spaghetti sauce.
Lots.
Yeah. I think that year I did 50 jars of spaghetti sauce.
Boy. And that's just the sauce, not the tomatoes. Okay, these look like they're pretty good, and they've kind of stopped bubbling and causing more headspace. I think we're good.
Actually, I'm going to let them sit for a few minutes before I put the lids on. I'm going to clean them off.
Clean off the mouths of the jars again, because you don't want those lids and rims to corrode from the tomato sauce. It's very acidic. So make sure that you wipe them down really well. Our canner is just about up to the boil. We'll be ready. So this basket goes inside of the pot. You can see that. It latches over the sides. You can load it with, I think, 6 jars in this one, and then you just lift it up and it goes into the water. So it's a handy dandy canning tool. If you don't have that, this might be really well worth the investment. Saves you a lot of drama. Now, if you're seeing that you don't need some, just take a tablespoon like Mom's doing and move the juice amongst the jars.
Yeah, because you never know, and try to compensate, and sometimes you figure it out.
We'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're gonna let these guys sit for an extra 5 minutes just to make sure any air bubbles that need to come out find their way to the top. And then we're gonna throw them in the process. Okay, so I just put my basket, my water is boiling, my basket is latched on the top, and Mom started putting these lids and the rims on. So these are the lids and these are the rims. Lids go on after you wipe off the jars, very good. And you're gonna affix the rim here, but not too tight.
Right.
Okay? Explain it to them, Mom.
Well, once you feel resistance, you feel it. Okay, that's as far as it goes. You just get a tiny little, maybe a quarter of an inch further, and that's enough.
What happens is when it's processing, all the air bubbles expand, they're heated, and they get pushed out. Then this lid sucks back on as the air condenses. And essentially, you don't even need these rims on after you've processed them. But for now, while you're doing this and it goes in the water, you don't want water getting in there.
Or
things.
that coming out.
Exactly. So it kind of holds everything together while it's processing. Okay. So I'm going to load some of these jars in this basket. Okay, we decided to get our larger canner out because we have larger jars. So we have another basket for this. There it goes. And all the lids are on nicely and just slightly affixed, right? Gently load them into your basket. Doing opposite sides so it doesn't tip. Loading as many as you can.
How many have you got in there?
That one won't fit. We've got 6.
Oh, it's perfect. Then we have 6.
So we have 2 loads of it, 6 and 6, and it goes. Now gently use your basket, lift them, mix that water. We're right on point here. You want to bring that water back up to a boil as quickly as possible, and these guys are going to process with the lid on for 35 minutes. You're going to bring it up to the boil, you're going to bring it down to a simmer. Doesn't have to like be mad crazy boiling.
No.
Okay, so it's almost up here now, but I'm going to put the lid on just to get it going as quickly as possible. As soon as it comes up to the boil, bring it down slightly and start your timer then. 35 minutes, we'll see you then. Okay, it's been 35 minutes, our timer's come off, and I've just turned the heat down, completely off on my burner. These are gonna sit in here for a good 15 minutes, just cooling before we take them completely out. You don't wanna shock them, you don't want them to crack, so you wanna be very gentle with them. And I'm just gonna lift them up here and latch them on the outside. And we're gonna let them sit there for 15 minutes to cool down before I take them out. Then I have to heat the water back up and we're gonna process the rest of the 6, but I don't think you guys need to watch all that. Okay, they've been sitting for 15 minutes and I'm just ever so gently going to take them here and let them cool off on the countertop. They look gorgeous. That one just popped in. You're gonna hear them suck in like that. And that's good stuff. You don't want to force them at all. They're going to do them all by themselves. They're kind of fun to listen to.
That's how you know that they sealed.
That's right. Now, I'm going to turn this back on high.
Oh, they look nice.
So I'm going to bring this water back up to a boil as quickly as possible. I put the lid on, and these guys are just going to be put into that basket. And the exact same thing is going to happen. So now these guys need to sit on the counter. They're gonna sit here overnight, about 24 hours before we put them away in the pantry or the fruit cellar. You can see that all the salt has dissolved in there now that you had in the bottom. All is copacetic. Well, good job, Mom.
Thank you.
They look beautiful.
I think so.
Goodness.
It's worth the work.
I think so.
We just have to wipe them off with a clean cloth.
Yep. We're just gonna. I'm gonna show them one.
Mm.
I love how you can see the parsley and the basil through the jar. That's so cool. The salt is all dissolved. They're very, very hot, but all is well and copacetic. It's all gonna seal in a minute.
Yes, as you hear them pop, there'll be a little indentation in the lid, and then you know that they've all sealed. If you don't have that indentation, that means it hasn't sealed. So
But
tomorrow,
don't push it.
if there's one with no indentation, we have to reprocess it.
Yep, it's not all lost.
No, we just changed the lid.
All right, so that's how you do it. That's how you can hold tomatoes. You know?
Lovely.
So make sure you check out Mom's website at ingridturnertoday.com. Follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim, E with a capital E. Like the fan page at facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on ifood.tv/cookingwithkimberly and youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly. And my site is cookingwithkimberly.com. The show's brought to you by Harvest Barn Country Markets. Make sure you go and check them out in Southern Ontario, in Niagara on the Lake, or in St. Catharines. And you can check them out online at harvestbarn.ca. Beautiful stuff.
That's where we got these gorgeous tomatoes.
That's right. So get to canning. You can do it too. Be a champion in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.
Bye-bye.